Ship. Time to get the last item crafted and then head on to the next level. I do apologize if this voiceover is a bit haphazard, but it wasn't planned. Normally, if I pre-record something that I plan to do voiceover after the recording, I have some sort of idea of what I'm trying to say. But this was, as mentioned in the previous episode, a blunder from my point. I had recorded stuff without the microphone being activated, which doesn't particularly help when you're trying to do voiceover stuff. But of course, we got the remaining components so we can craft the last golem affecting item, so let us do just that. It's particularly useful for bringing or for luring golems into deadly traps. That sounds interesting. Possibly useless to us, but anyway, we have it, and it can't be hotkeyed, so you can only drop it. So at least we got it, in case it becomes useful in some way, shape, or form. Let's see what's downstairs. Oh, someone who died. A guardian golem. Okay. That seems like it's quite powerful. Hard to hit. It's got a lot of health. This is probably where the golem crusher would be nice to have. Or nice to use, I should say. But even with the highest attack bonus, it has a hard time hitting us. The maximum attack bonus it seems to have is 31. Which is, I mean, it's still yeah, a nice attack bonus, but even with a 31 bonus, it still needs to roll 15 or higher to hit us. When it hits, of course, it hits like a truck. So it is something to be mindful of, and I'm respecting that by using heal potions. Just in case it should crit, you know. 1500 experience. Not bad. Of course, it was saying some things, and we have the Lexicon Arcana. I think I called it a Lexicana. The same thing, but different. And it was saying Las Zan. Just double checking that that is indeed what it was saying. Making a map note, you know, just why not? So according to that book, that would be 79. So we probably have to use that number in the control room in order to open something of some description. But before we do that, let's explore downstairs and see what we find. We find a cutscene intermission.
Farron's rebellion will fail. Bow down to Agaz now, or be destroyed.
Agaz has no claim over any of us. Why do you follow him?
Agaz was appointed by the Maker. He must rule until the Maker returns.
The Maker is dead. Agaz rules only for Agaz. We will never bow down to him.
That's a very interesting proposition we have in front of us. Oh, scenario, I should say, not proposition. it will turn into a proposition, as you can possibly gather, because we have two forces at each other's throat yet again, which is a scenario that was used in the second level of the first dungeon, and yes, it is very, very similar. Some fleshy golems and some metallic golems. And these guys, of course, seem to be communicative, so they are probably sentient. It doesn't take much of a Sherlock Holmes to work that one out, because they are communicating, responding, answering, counter-answering, asking questions, all that kind of stuff that sentient beings would do. And of course, because we have the fleshy ones on one side and the metallic ones on the other side, it's, yeah. Two factions yet again, fighting yet again. So we will probably have to pick a side, and that's what I meant by proposition. Because it is actually a factor that becomes relevant later on, but for the moment we will just go around and everything is hostile. So, go around and punch things. The fleshy golems are being led by a golem that the maker appointed to be the guide in his absence. And he is very adamant about following the word of the maker. Whereas the metallic golems are a bit sick and tired of waiting for the maker to return. So they have rebelled, and that is what this conflict is all about. They are basically insisting on achieving their independence, their free will, because they have been crafted specifically, as this lab notes book will indicate. The maker was trying to make sentient golems, but he can't really get it to work because, of course, normal, as I was mentioning in the previous episode, normally golems are inanimate objects, which they are more remote-controlled entities, even though they are not as such. But you know what I mean. They have very limited options, and usually pre-programmed magically in order to do certain things, but these ones have been gifted with some sense of self. And we bump into a flesh golem who wants us to go speak to Agas, their spiritual leader, so to speak. And we agree to go and speak to him because, you know, things are better if you talk. See if you can come to some amiable solution. This golem has been crafted by the flesh of demons, apparently.
High priest of the Maker and leader of the sentient golems.
And he's apparently a self-proclaimed high priest of the Maker.
Though golems, we are different than the mindless constructs that wander the level above. We are creatures of intelligence and will, beings of true self-awareness. We are the children of
And we get the
Alzheimer's
story about
Maker,
them
who
being
gave
the
us
sentient.
the gift of life itself. Being the strongest, the Maker
Alzigard, the Maker, who was basically
to deliver his word
just,
and will to his
such a big
children.
word, a powerful mage.
When the Maker descended to his
And
inner
they are
sanctum,
his children,
we were
and
given the task of guarding this place.
Agas
from those who
insists
would
on
destroy his work, like the Durga who looted
keeping
the
his
remains
will
of our
going.
fallen siblings.
But
sense
what
you are
Agas,
like those Durga
not
thieves.
Agas,
It
the
seems
Maker
you have come
actually
here for a
wanted was for
different
the
reason.
golems
That is
to
why we parley with you now.
go
under
out
a
and do
state of
things
truce.
for themselves. And that was his intention. He wanted them to showcase that they had actually gained intellectual independence. But there's a clash of opinions about that. The flesh golems believing that the masters or the makers waiting or want them to wait for him to return, and the metal golems are insisting that the maker wanted them to have their free will. So Avgas want us to find the leader of the rebellion, which is the metal golems, and we smash him. Unfortunately, we don't get a chance to actually say, you know what, I want to come back, I want to hear the other side of the story, because we are basically told quite abruptly that we are either with them or against them, and he's being very, very threatening in his behavior. And we can seek his help. You are either with me or against me, human. Choose wisely. Well, nobody threatens me. So we get to fight him and his friends, which is of course more experience. We're perfectly fine with that. This monk would rather talk and find a solution to things before putting up his fists. But I'm also fairly sure that if someone was to threaten him, he wouldn't take too kindly to it. And this so-called sentient being of some intelligence has completely and utterly disregarded that we pounded our way through an entire floor of non-sentient golems in order to reach this floor, and we have flattened about 40 other golems, both fleshy and metallic ones, and he threatens our monk. It's a bit dicey, because of course when you're playing flanked you're easy to hit, so let us use our 50% concealment buff and then maybe use a proper heal potion. It's easy to get overconfident, and that is something you should never do, because when they hit like trucks. Don't get me wrong, they do hit like trucks, but they do have to hit first, and that is of course the big thing, and by having 50% concealment we have just made that chance significantly smaller. But since we have smashed the leader of the fleshy golems, we have more or less picked a side. We don't technically need to pick a side, but we are seeking allies in a fight against the Varshavas, and golems are powerful. They are undeniably powerful. So it might be a good idea to ally with some of them. Now, for my decision is based purely on my own philosophy. First and foremost, you can always argue from a game perspective, metallic golems might be stronger than fleshy golems, but they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, so it's probably an even trade no matter which side you go with. But I believe in guidance. Guide people to make informed decisions. Don't necessarily try to brainwash them and tell them what to do. It doesn't work for me. I will not surrender my right to think for myself. I will not do that. That is a right I have as a human being, and I would not surrender that. And the rebels, they want to act for themselves, and as I was saying before, that is more or less the original intention of the maker, for them to actually act independently. So that is why I went with these guys, the metallic golems. But because we still haven't spoken to the leader of the rebellion, everything is still hostile. It's not before we are being approached in exactly the same way, with this time by a metallic golem, and go and speak to the leader of the rebellion, that everything becomes more, or becomes friendly. All metallic golems. These are basically just XP pinatas. We are immune to poison, they can't affect us with their mind affecting abilities. If they hit hard, but again, they need to hit first, and we have no greater issues hitting them, and at 1500 experience a pop, I sort of wish there was more of them, but you'll have to take what you can get. Again, other classes may prefer to use the Golem Crusher or Golem Attractor or whatever, whichever one they want to use for this particular area, I don't know. But 46 armor class, doing serious damage, yeah, I think the monk is fine. You get spoiled with this class, definitely get spoiled with this class, because it may not be flashy like casters, and may not blah, and it's super cool to have epic armors of super epicness and using 200 swords of skull cleaving and whatever else they're called, but you know what, the monk is just so blessed with so many abilities to handle just about any situation. And I have to admit, having played this character through the original campaign and playing it in this expansion part as well, it sort of removed my desire to play other classes. A trapdoor, a trap that doesn't go away, apparently. What is it? Yes, this one does. There's another trapdoor where the trap will not be removed. Oh yeah, of course, power source. I forgot about that. There's a power source here, and I couldn't remember whether we would want to take it or not. But before having confirmed that we actually want to take it, I wouldn't want to take it, so I left it behind. If someone wants us to go and pick it up, it's close by. We're moving fast as a monk. It's no biggie to do a run back and pick it up. So, all intents and purposes, I decided to just leave it for the moment. You know, in case I removed the power source and it turned out that all the golems would go. You don't want that if you're seeking allies, do you? So, find our way back. Fight some more stuff. Traps all over the place. Not much of a chance. Another room connecting back, more traps, more poison, more golems to fight. Hooray! This is the problem you face when you start gaining levels, is the fighter portion. Because your level increases, the level difference between what you're fighting and yourself gets smaller and smaller, so they become, because it's scaled directly to level, deemed effortless, and depending on the class you're playing or not playing, they may be more or less effortless. Certain classes will probably struggle quite significantly, especially if the golems start punching them. So, if you have to spend 30 seconds, 40 seconds fighting one golem, then these are still quite challenging. And of course, because they are golems, they hit like trucks. I can easily imagine a squishy caster getting punched in the face by something like the Guardian Golem would probably be picking up their teeth and eyes and whatever else, being sent flying all over the place by being smacked by a huge block of metal. But again, being spoiled with the monk doesn't really care. Obviously, he's not immune to damage. I'm using healing potions. Or heal potions, I should say. Quite significantly, but you know what? That's what they're there for. As you can see, these metallic golems are still quite hostile, so there's a bunch of them lying down to the side, which is rather interesting. It's almost like an infirmary for golems. Or maybe a construction area, I don't know. You can actually create your own golem in this dungeon, but you have to be a very specific class, and I can't remember exactly which class it is, but it's a caster, mage, wizard subclass thing. I'm pretty sure that is the door that is permanently trapped. Yep. Keep triggering the trap and blew up a poor rat who just happened to be... Oh well, I guess. Poor thing.
Can't even make a scratch.
A chain lightning trap. And then of course we couldn't open the door, damage the door even. So, time for things to go south. I know it was a bad joke, by the way. Can you imagine a rogue being surrounded by these guys? That would be quite interesting. I'm fairly sure when I played through this expansion with my paladin that I had a follow at all times. And I'm also fairly sure that going through this area first and foremost was a nightmare, because of course the paladin hasn't got a third of the immunities that the monk has. And here is the metallic dragon and envoy wants us to go and speak to the leader of the rebellion. But anyway, as I was saying, my paladin, he would probably been carrying around with Lino. And or the doll
I bid you greetings.
lady, more likely her actually, and just got splattered constantly in this area.
Put down your
Anyway.
weapons. We mean you no harm.
We meet Theron,
Theron, leader of these rebel sentient
who
golems,
tells us
seeks
basically
to-
the same story as the other guy did, except for the fact that they have a different aspect. An aspect being that they're supposed to have
This
their
may
own free
seem
will.
strange to you, but we are not like most golems. We are not mere constructs. We
You can think and feel in all ways.
In all
You can think and
ways,
feel
we
in
are
all
as
ways we are as
real
real and alive
as
as you yourself. That is what he says.
And, like all creatures, we have the right to our freedom. The golems here with me all share my belief. We are not slaves to the Maker. Unfortunately, our freedom will not come easily. We have fought to escape the chains of our slavery, but it is a war we can never truly win. Not without help. Please, creature.
So, whereas the other guy wanted us to suppress the rebellion, this guy wants us to help them become free. And then of course you complain about being attacked on the upper level, and you're very, very sorry, but those beings are mindless. So they fought us out of fear. They fought we an enemy sent by a gas to destroy us. What is some tune sorry? Oh, he's dead, by the way. And they need more help because, of course, the power source. That is the source of their ability to exist as sentient golems, and they need us to pick it up. I could have picked it up before, but as I said, I was unwilling to do it before I was asked to do so, just in case it did something naughty, nasty. And now we have to go through all of this again because of, for some bizarre reason, the dialogue branching did not allow me to go directly to say, well, I'll go and get your power source for you, which is a bit annoying, but I suppose we can ask some questions, which is the same yada 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 as we asked the other one. I'm not trying to mock the story in any way, shape, or form, or writing in any way, shape, or form, but it is essentially for the purpose of this just more fluff. I'm not necessarily turning this expansion bit into a synopsis run like I did with the original campaign, but I'm still skipping through large parts of it. By the way, they have waited 300 years before they were considering whether they should actually stop waiting for the master, Maker, who has been absent for 500 years. So even though they are sentient, they are still thinking like constructs, and our characters pointed that out, that they need to not think like constructs. And Ferran is saying that in order to do so, they would have to travel about and experience other beings firsthand, so they can learn from them and all that kind of stuff. And that's why they need the power source, because they need to be in the presence of the power source. And apparently, it's a portable power source, so they can bring it with them. But we know where it is, so we just have to run through and go and get it. But considering the fact that they waited 300 years before deciding to maybe not wait for the Mega anymore, them leaving this place is probably not going to be something that will happen overnight. They are the golem version of Ents. Apparently, they only do things after much consideration, deliberation, and all that stuff. But the key point, of course, is that we are seeking allies against the multiverse, and as thanks for helping them, Ferran promises us that we will get some of the golems to show up once we trigger the fight against the Valkyries and her army. So we'll be going back to hand in the power source, and everyone will be happy. The reason I'm not doing the synopsis part becomes very, very evident, because we were seeking allies from the winged elves, and there wasn't any indication of promises of getting allies from that side. And now we're getting the promise of help from the golems by doing this quest. So basically what we got left now is to break off the alliance between the Valkyries and the undead, the Illithids or Mind Flayers, and of course the Beholders. And then when that is done, oh well, we'll get there when we get there. But suffice to say, The expansion is actually not as long as I originally thought it would be. It's definitely not compared to the original campaign.
Put down your weapons. We mean you no harm. I'm Farron, leader of this and
Oh, we have to go
fought
through
escape
all
the
this
chain.
again, which is a bit. You could beat them all if you wanted to, but getting the allies is always nice. Here you are. Go get it. 2,500 experience for that, which is enough to gain a level, which is always nice. Don't forget, I need your help against the Valkyries. I'm not abandoning you. You are a true friend of the golems. We will be at your side when you go to face your enemy. Least we can do. So, in this part, I'm going to level up, and then I mentioned something about checking whether we can actually locate the maker, and I assume the numbers we gained on the first level would be some sort of indication as to opening a door that would lead down to the maker. But of course, that would have to be for next part, and I said something about trying it out before recording it, because if it's not possible, practical to bump into the maker, there's no point in wasting viewers' time doing something that ultimately leads to nowhere. So I will be doing that. I will be checking off recording whether we can achieve anything from it, and if something exciting comes from it, then record it. But next time we should be back with actually proper live recording. So as for now, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye.